Hi there, I'm Christy. In today's video, I'd like to show you how I made this little chandelier in my greenhouse using basically garbage, just a bunch of random things that I had found digging around. So basically what I did is I started off making the chandelier by making these jars. These were some quart jars that had chips on them. And so what I did is I just took a drill and drilled a hole in the top of the lid. I I found some, they were actually solar lights that I found in one of my drawers that I didn't know I had, and they were brand new. I got them from Amazon and I never used them, so I thought this would be a really great project to use these lights in. So I just kind of, fish these fairy lights down into the bottom of the jar through the hole in the lid that I had just drilled. You have to be really careful not to cut yourself because it can get quite jagged. So you might want, whoops, you might want to be cautioned if you are working with any type of canning jar lid and you drill a hole in it. It definitely can be dangerous if you're not paying attention with kids. Just something to note. So yeah, I just fed it on through. And it is actually really hard to get fairy lights in a jar. Who would have thought it was such a hard task? But it took me a little bit, and I fed it through until the plastic or the protective rubber stuff for the cord come through. And I didn't really go any further than that because I didn't want to see that that coated part inside the jar. Next, I just threaded in a string, like a craft string, and I tied a little crystal ball thing that they're kind of like little chandelier crystals. I had also found these in my drawer of stuff, my junk drawer. And so yeah, I just fed that through the ring and the lid and tied it onto the string just with a double knot. And then just basically I just cut it and made sure it was snug. Very, very simple. It's a really easy project and quite fun to do. So to pull the slack out, I made sure I held onto the fairy lights and then pulled the string. So I didn't want to pull the fairy lights out when I pulled the string because it was quite tight fitting. And then I just kind of pushed everything down and arranged it so I could drop the chandelier part down in between the lights so it wasn't going to be bunched up. And then just fed the ring through the string. They were really pretty. I wish I would have had more lights, but I was just using what I had. I didn't spend any money on this project at all. So it was just using up my things that I had on hand. And this is my baby Lulu. Since this video has been recorded, we have since lost Lulu, so this is a very special moment to get to see her. And this is her sister Gracie. These two cats were rescues. Chaz went to a local truck stop where they were abandoned, and he brought them home and raised them when they were 2 weeks old. So they were having some fun. So that's what they look like, and it's going into the greenhouse. We had just completed this project, and so it wasn't in place yet. I should have not assembled the chandelier until we moved it in place, but we did it anyway. Chaz worked really, really hard on helping build this greenhouse with myself and his dad. He had drilled all the holes in the inside the boxes, the garden boxes. He helped build the garden boxes. He helped put the roof on. He did so much. And so this was really a family project. And the reason I wanted to use the ladder that I later used is because of this. This is where the greenhouse is actually going, is where this playhouse is. And the ladder I used for this chandelier come off of this little playhouse. When Chaz was little, he used to play on it with his dog Oli. And, he's all grown up now compared to then, but as you can see, it was just, I wanted something very special where he had memories that was part of it for him. So that's why I wanted to use that. And as you can see, he's up on that roof helping. And I just wanted it to be very special for him because it was that pivotal moment where he was growing up, and it was hard for him to let go of his little playhouse, but it was too dangerous to leave it up. So it was kind of a compromise that we were able to use that ladder in this project. So I wanted to make a few more chandelier pieces, and so I just took some other jars and I used these little crystals. I had a whole bunch of them to use up. I would have really liked to have more of the solar lights or fairy lights to put in the jars, but I just didn't have any and I didn't want to spend any money on this project. So this is what I did. I just took random jars, whichever ones had chips in them, or there was one, it had a little bit of discoloration from pressure canning. So they were not good jars. They were old jars that would have not been used in my lineup of canning. So just use what you have. And these were used lids. They would have been tossed anyway, nothing fancy. I think the only thing that I actually had bought in for this project was that string, which was about $1 or $2 at the dollar store. So yeah, that's what they look like. They were really pretty, makes little rainbows. I had to hide the strings in the truck from the cats. Chaz was learning he was making his own project. He was learning to use some power tools and stuff. So we were sharing some of the tools in the shop. He was learning to cut, and he knows how to cut, but we were taking turns, and he was learning how to build a bird feeder while I was working on this project. So I made sure I had lots of slack because I didn't know how long I wanted these to hang, and Chaz was such focus and precision. I found myself when I was working on that project getting distracted by how good he was doing with the tools and kind of, trying to distract him while he was being all serious and so focused. But he really gets focused on things and gets it done, so that's really cool. So anyway, I just wrapped around the string around the ladder and just kind of tied it off to the side, so then I could kind of, once I had everything sort of hung, then I could adjust the height that I wanted. And I didn't cut anything till I was for sure of the arrangement of, how low I wanted them to be and stuff like that. So it was pretty low tech operation here. Because these solar lights, they have like a solar kind of like a pod thing on a wire cord, like a cord. I did have to kind of make a little hanger to kind of put them in. So basically I just took a bunch of little finishing nails and I sort of made it a track to kind of catch it on, and then I bent the nails over to hold it into place because I didn't have any staples, and I had staples that I could have used, but I didn't have enough for this project because it was just a couple of the longer staples that I could have used, and I was worried I would damage the cord if I stapled it, so I just did it this way. And so you couldn't see the cord when you were standing under it and it was hanging, so it worked out okay. And then the charger for the lights, I basically, because they come on these little things that you're supposed to go in the ground, little pegs. I don't even know what you call them. So I just decided to drill the end of the ladder so then I could stick it in there and it could charge from above the chandelier. It's kind of big and awkward and bulky to look at it like at this angle, but when I'm out in the greenhouse, most people that ever have been in my greenhouse since I've hung this up there, they do not notice the actual chargers for the lights. So you don't notice it unless you are looking for them and stuff or know they're there. But even myself, I don't even notice them there. So it worked out okay to do it that way. I wanted just to make sure that they could be easily adjusted. So if I laid them flat on the surface, I had no way to really mount them, and then I couldn't move them if I needed to because they kind of are on a hinge on top of that little spike thing that is going into the wood. So during the season when the sun has different heights or is in different angles, I could still adjust them easily by just using a broomstick and just kind of tilting them. Whereas if I mounted it directly onto the ladder, it would be like that for good. Like I wouldn't be able to adjust the actual charger itself. So, or the solar panel thing on the little pegs, or the unit itself. I'm so scrambled for words on these. I don't even know what to call them. The doohickeys. So yeah, that's what I did. I just basically, once I had that stuff in place, I just kind of cleaned up my strings. I didn't want to cut it. I wanted it wrapped up. I really like that look. It kind of broke up the textures, added some textures, added some interest by wrapping and then tying the string. I thought it looked really nice to make like oversized knots and such. So yeah, it worked out good. I just needed to kind of tidy up with a few nails. I did finish up tidying it up with some electrical tape, and I just sort of wrapped the electrical tape around the cords to kind of keep them all nice and tidy. And then just basically bent nails over everything to hold it into place. It was really simple. Didn't buy anything except for the string. Coming to think about it, I bought string for this project, but everything else, it was stuff that was salvaged, or like the ladder and the rope, or it was, and the jars themselves too, because they would have been, they were not they were in my discard pile. So yeah, it was like salvaged. So this is Chaz's little bird feeder that he's working on, and his dad was helping him and showing him how to cut angles and stuff to get his finishing touches on it. He's actually using some of the scrap material, the salvage material. We're teaching him about salvaging items that just because it's used up for one project, you can still take those scraps and make something different. And he actually is using some of the scrap pieces from my greenhouse to make this bird feeder. So that was kind of cool. And then to hang this ladder chandelier, I wanted to have like thick rope. We had some thick rope, and I thought it would look really, really cool to hang it from, but like by drilling holes in the ladder and then actually having like oversized knots. So that was kind of the plan. And so I just made sure that I had a good hole to put the rope through. And I should have been using a different bit. It was a little bit of a task to get that all done, but it worked out good in the end. I just trimmed off the end. As you know, I didn't want it to be too close to the knot. I wanted it to not come undone and fall on someone's head. And then I just cut it and burnt it. And it actually held really well. Because we're going to throw it over the rafters or through the rafters, I only tied one end, and I had to do the other part of it up in the air while it was being hung. So this part, I didn't anchor it to the other side. This rope, I didn't anchor it to the other side. I just did two sides in the shop. And then when we hung it, then I did the other part to hang it, which you'll see in a minute. I was just double checking to make sure it fit through the holes, because we wanted the holes drilled made before we took it outside. And Tyson was helping me because I was doing it wrong. I wasn't. He just had a better tool that I didn't grab it, and he was showing me that was probably the better tool to use, and it was right, and he just did it to help me out. So, but yeah, it went really quickly, and I just waited for him to drill because he's tall enough that he could reach, and so yeah, he took it up for me, and he drilled a hole in the rafter, 2 holes, and then what he did is he fed the rope through, one rope through each of the rafters, and then I was able to basically figure out where I wanted it and then tie it onto the ladder itself and then adjust how we wanted it to hang. So it was really easy. It wasn't too difficult. We did have a little bit of a tangle up with the ropes, and he just had to pull it out again and then reattach it. But yeah, it went really easy. And so then I had to go up and sort of decide where I wanted it. It was all by eye, nothing fancy here. I didn't like the way it was hanging, and I didn't like the way it looked. So what I wanted to do was I wanted to kind of like tie the all four strands of the rope together, and then we had more control over how it would hang, because I just really didn't like it how it was naturally hanging on its own. So basically what I was doing is I was just burning the knots that I had cut and then adjusting everything, making sure it was all secure. And then Tyson went up because he could reach and he tied them all together for me. And yeah, he just tied one of the ends of the rope. We used that and tied all four together, and then we had it hang at an angle, which I really like that much better. And it worked great. It really did. It has moved a little bit since the building has moved and stuff, but we actually, when we moved it to its location to where it is sitting now, actually, it actually handled the move really well. It didn't hardly affect it at all. It swayed and stuff, but it was good. But I do really wish I would have had all the jars with solar lights, but you know what? I love it anyways, and it didn't cost any money, and it means something very much dear and near to Chaz's heart. The jars may not be filled with lights, but they're definitely filled with memories. Thanks for watching. Much love.